Let's start off with what would be your current occupation?
I'm a stay-at-home mum, but I've got history of I was a soldier, a nurse, and a paramedic before that. But
Aye,
I'm a stay-at-home mum now. Yeah.
aye. How long since you were a paramedic?
About oh gosh, to be 11 years, 12 years now.
Aye,
Yeah, it's a long time because my daughter's 12, so yeah, it'd be 12 years.
aye. So you've been a stay-at-home mum for
Long
that
time.
behind.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So no nursing or other stuff on
No,
the
I've
side.
tried to get work. It's really hard for a mother to go back to work after they've given up,
Ah,
especially like in what I was doing because I was a soldier. Of course, I'm too old now for that. But nursing and paramedics, if you don't keep your qualifications current, you lose them. And I wasn't able to get any work in that time, so yeah, it's gone by the wayside.
aye,
Very sad. Paramedics is a good job though.
aye. Yeah, so how long were you in the army?
7 years.
Nice. Where was that based out of?
Started off in Portsea in Victoria. Then I moved. I got posted to Ingleburn as a medic, and then I went to Brisbane as a medic, and then I qualified there as a laboratory technician, and I was a corporal laboratory technician when I got out.
Nice.
7 years, yeah.
Aye,
Good job. Was a good job.
was a good job.
Was a good job.
Yeah. So why have you decided to run for Parliament?
Because around this area here, we've got coal exploration permits, and our community doesn't want it here. And I've been trying to find a representative in Parliament to speak to about that, and there is nobody in there to speak to. So fundamentally, that's why. That's what drove me to this. I did the Lock the Gate survey. I started a community group. We've been pretty active here about the coal exploration that's going on, but there's nowhere to take it. Not local government, not state government, not federal government.
So no senators would help you?
Larissa Waters has been great. Glenn Lazarus has been great, but there's not enough of them in there. That's the problem. We need more people in there to represent what the people want. And that's why I'm running. That's fundamentally why. Because I don't feel that we're being fully represented there anymore.
I'm imagining that the Liberal Party and to some extent Labor would be wanting the tax revenue from...
What they perceive as there being tax revenue, but they're not taxing them properly. I mean, they're actually subsidising mining. So if they wouldn't, we would make more money out of it if they didn't subsidise, but they subsidise mining. So that money could be put into schools or health. Thank you. Thanks, Helen.
So other than, say, the Lock the Gate sort of stuff, have you been with any other campaign type thing?
Never.
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 So you haven't run for, say, local government?
No, none of that. None of it. No, this is my first time.
So what sort of insight or experiences would you be bringing if you got elected to Parliament?
I represent the people. I know how to speak to people. I've got life experience. I've worked in the health system. I had my kids in the public health system. I've only ever worked in the public health system. I had my kids in the public health system. My kids are in public school. My family is on one income. We earn under $80,000 a year. So we're not getting any of these tax benefits from the LNP. The ALP don't represent my family well enough. I think the Greens are the best party to allow people to represent their issues in Parliament.
If it wasn't the Greens, who would it be?
Can't see it being another one. Maybe Lazarus or Lambie, maybe one of those.
Right.
But they're not the only party that's organised enough to represent the people of the Greens. And Di Natale is a fantastic leader. And it's a very democratic party because there's 2 deputies, Larissa Waters and Scott Ludlam. That's a very democratic way to run a party, to have two deputy leaders, I think. And I think Di Natale is an awesome leader.
With the Greens federal leadership team, what would be your thoughts on them being the leader and the 2 deputies being from an individual state each? So Ludlam from WA, Larissa Waters from here in Queensland, and Di Natale from Victoria.
What do you mean? Like, I think that's great. I think that gives full representation of the country, or as broad a representation as can be. I mean, Larissa's from Queensland, the east. Ludlam's from the west, and Di Natale's from south. I think that's a great representation of the people. I think. Huge demographic.
We've had the writs for the double dissolution handed down today. What would a 2-month campaign mean for you?
Oh, a lot of shoe leather being worn out because, you've got to engage with the community. I mean, I've engaged with this local area. I've got to get out to the broader areas, although I've done so many kilometres already. It's just going to be a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work. And this area is not a very green area.
No, I think the greenest area might be Noosa.
Yep.
How do you engage with the rest of the electorate north of there?
North of here?
North of Noosa.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, the local area here know me through Lock the Gate and my anti-coal and gas stuff. Yeah. I've spent a bit of time in Maryborough. I've gone up to Maryborough and participated in actually coal and gas and Greens meetings up there. I spent a day at Mergen and Cherbourg and, where else did we go? All the towns in between here and there anyway.
It seems to be...
It's just time and effort and me getting around. And I'll go to a pamphlet. I'll give you a pamphlet when we go.
Righto.
Because I've got a pamphlet with a few things in it, which might help, I hope.
Yeah. There seems to be those 3 big population areas, Maryborough, Gympie and Noosa. And you see, how have you engaged with them?
Noosa, I was involved in the council elections in Noosa.
Yep.
Pretty heavily involved in those. Also go to the Noosa Hinterland Greens meetings. So I'm involved with the branch down there.
Yep.
But I've been mostly involved with the council election, handing out, door knocking. I've also done a lot of letterboxing in Noosa. Yeah.
So I'd imagine people down there would know your face when they see it.
It's surprising, they do. I was really pleased with how people knew me down there. I didn't expect to be known. But when I was handing out, one of the women said, "Oh, I know your name." She said, "I've seen some of your stuff in the paper." So that was really cool. Yeah. Because it's not a place I go to that often, Noosa.
Can't imagine you'd have much business down that way, necessarily.
No, Gympie. I hang out in Gympie, mostly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think out here...
Pretty regional.
Yeah, I think here is about 20 minutes out of Gympie. And
that's right, yeah. Yep, 20 minutes out.
Yeah, and it's maybe half hour, 40 minutes down to Noosa.
About 40 minutes, yeah. And if you go the back way?
If you go I come up the highway.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
As I said, I come straight from the uni, and the highway is just there.
Yeah.
So.
No, you can go the back way. Go down to Guygan Road, go and turn left onto Kin Road, and follow the signs. It's a bit of dirt, but it's closer. It's not
takes you down Noosa way.
Through Pomona, through Kin Pomona.
Yeah.
Dr. Page's Road if you want to go that way.
I think I've been through Pomona for a few things, and it seems to be a nice town.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful town. It's a beautiful area. The whole area is just it's just lovely. Yeah.
How often do you engage with the smaller communities outside of the Gympies and the Maryborough?
Oh gosh, I've been to Aldershot a couple of times. There's a mine going in at Aldershot, all set to go ahead.
Right.
which will be discharging 200 litres a minute of untreated mine water into the Mary River. It's a bit of a scary thing, I think. So I've been engaged in that, or involved in that a little bit. This area here, there's 11 localities here, and they're all coal mine and gas field free, and we surveyed them door to door, so I've been extremely engaged with the community here. Out at Walby, we held a hall meeting out there. I helped the people at Glenwood hold a hall meeting there for Lockley Gate again, for the coal and gas issues that are around the area. Yeah, and there's a 3,000 square kilometre gas field proposed to go in at Maryborough, which I can send you the maps of.
Right.
I can send you the pictures of the maps. 3,000 square kilometre gas field. It's owned by, I think the leases are owned by Blue Energy, or I know they're owned by Blue Energy, yeah.
Are there any already existing mines or gas fields
In the area?
in the electorate?
Tyro Coal was going to go ahead. I don't believe there are. I'm just thinking, I don't believe that there are any existing, but it's about to open up. It's part of the mining boom, which was more of a fizz than an actual boom, wasn't it? I mean, they didn't tax it properly, they subsidised it to Billy.
Yeah, I think they were doing lots of mining, making heaps of money, but I think, as you say, they weren't taxing it properly. So.
They weren't taxing it properly, and they were subsidising.
Yeah.
Most of the mines have been subsidised by the government. So, I mean, it's crazy. The biggest threat in this area is a government legislated for, subsidised, supported, fossil fuel industry.
So if the government wasn't subsidising mining in the fossil fuels, do you think we'd get back to a balanced budget sooner, or?
I think so. Yeah. I think we'd be able to support our health system and our schools. Absolutely. Absolutely. And people talk about transition of away from fossil fuels. So it's not just transitioning the energy supply away from fossil fuels, it's transitioning all those jobs as well, and skills. So the skills in mining that could be used in the renewable energy sector. It's all construction in the start-up, isn't it? And then after that, well, there's training. I mean, they still need to train the miners, so why not train them for renewable energy?
So in your mind, would there be any other industry that would benefit from a transition away from fossil fuels?
Tourism, because the reef would have the stress taken off it. Tourism is the one that is set, I think, to absolutely boom once we transition from fossil fuels. Agriculture, because at the moment what's happening, in the area around Chinchilla, there's approximately 40 water bores that are about to be decommissioned from the damage it caused by Link. You don't hear about this, do you?
No, I don't.
No one hears about it. No one hears about it. We've heard little bits. You've heard of George Bender. Did you hear about George Bender?
I may have at some point.
He was a farmer up there that he committed suicide because of his involvement with Link Energy and the damage that was done to his farm.
I've heard about farmers committing suicide.
Yeah, well, he was a big one. That his family lived on the property for 75 years, and they farmed that land sustainably. And what happened is Link Energy started an underground coal gasification plant. I don't believe it was on his place, I believe it was beside his place. And what that is when they actually ignite a coal seam and release the gas that way, and it becomes syngas, which is short for synthesised gas. They release the coal that way, but you can't control where that seam burns. And what happened is it released the gas and it came out under his place. He couldn't dig more than 2 metres. He was a cotton farmer and a pig farmer. He couldn't dig more than 2 metres into his own ground in case it ignited and he had an explosion. So dealing with them for 10 years was too much for him. He had 4 water bores, I believe, decommissioned on his property. So that's 4 water supplies that are gone, 40 more in the pipeline to be decommissioned, so that's another 40 water supplies gone. And it's not just for now, it's forever. They're gone, that's it. The aquifers in that area are so depleted that they've now been reallocated away from agriculture to mining. So farmers aren't allowed to access that water, only miners. And these are the things you don't hear about. Although it got too much for him and he took his own life. So, yeah, terrible. I think agriculture would greatly benefit from fossil fuels being stopped. That's what I think.
Yeah. With the campaign, are you buying ad space in newspapers on TV, or are you sticking to...
Got no money for it. There's no money. The party doesn't have a lot of money to put into campaigning. So mostly what I've been doing is letterbox dropping, door knocking, doing talks where people will have me, which is good. I did a PowerPoint presentation about the mining exploration in the area at Noosa Parks to try and raise a bit of awareness about that, because the exploration permits here go from just up the road here all the way down to just north of Pomona. King right in the middle of it. So it's quite a massive area.
King, Coran, Traviston.
Coran is just outside. Beanham Valley is just outside as well. Yep. Boreen Point. Boreen Point is just outside. Coran's just outside, so that the permits go just inside those two. That's the line, and just north of Pomona. But it's all part of the Noosa catchment. Apparently there's no exploration going on there at the moment, but what I know about them holding the exploration permits are that to hold them, they have to be actively carrying out exploration, and they have to spend a particular amount of money a year on exploration, be that drilling, geological surveying. They were doing seismic testing just out here just before Christmas. Look, they're doing bits and pieces at a time to maintain their permits, but also they're looking for whatever they can find.
Right. So as far as you understand, they're doing what sounds like the bare minimum of what they need to do to...
Oh, I wouldn't call it the bare minimum. I would not call it the bare minimum at all. They put 15 holes out there in the forestry.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, 15 test holes. So, I mean, that's quite a bit of...
Yeah.
You know, they have to spend a few thousand on exploration a year. I don't know what the figures are. I can't get that information. I'm sure it's available somewhere, but I haven't found it. But I do know that they have to spend money and be carrying out particular activities. And what that does is it stops a community group like mine, crowdfunding, getting the money together, buying those permits, and then sitting on them.
So, would that information be held by a government department?
Department of Natural Resources and Mining. But it's not easy to get. They'll say, oh no, it's so easy, it's so transparent, it's this, it's that, you can get all this information. You can't get all the information you want. And since I've been doing this, now I've started doing this, the very first meeting that we had was on the 14th of June, 2 years ago. I've been doing this since then. And in that time, which isn't that long really, it's like 2 years. So in that time, the maps alone to show where the permits are have changed about 5 or 6 times. It's now long. When I first started doing it, it was the Department of Natural Resources and Mining maps. Now it's the Mines Online maps, but that whole program has changed. I can't even download it on my computer anymore. I don't know if that's the broadband network or if it's something in their programming, but it's very difficult to find the maps.
I'm beginning to think it might need to submit a right to information request.
Quite possibly. A lot of people have done that. I mean, there's a lot of... The people at Aldershot, they're going through court at the moment. There's been a lot of sort of legal stuff going on around the whole thing, but it should not be this hard, or as hard as it's been, to find this information out. You know, people in this area, my family are 100% reliant on bore water and rainwater. Now, they've been drilling. I know in at least one hole out there, they've drilled into 2 aquifers. Because there's 2 aquifer systems here. One's potable, one's brackish. They sit on top of each other. The shallow one is potable. The bottom one is just basically good for flushing the loo or some people can water their lawn with it because it's not too bad, but in other places it's too salty to even do that with. But I know that in at least one hole out there, they've gone through 2 aquifers. So it shouldn't be that hard to find out, particularly if it is a community's water supply that they're involved with.
So what has been the response from the local federal member, now former deputy PM, or the local state member?
Okay, I wrote a letter to Mr. Truss, and he basically told me that don't worry about it, it's all good, don't worry about it. We need coal, and you know, renewable energy doesn't have the base load to supply the energy requirements. It was all just, it's not good enough. That's not good enough. He sent my email to our state member. This is back when I wrote to them, because I haven't even bothered writing to them since. And he told me that it's okay. It's all been legislated for. One paragraph in the email that comes to mind is, there is no legislative requirement to notify the general public when a coal exploration permit has been granted. So he's talking about, we are the general public. This whole community here is the general public.
Yep.
And we don't have to know about it. Now, we're not the general public, we're community members, we're landholders, and we live here. The general public are the interlopers that are coming in and exploring in our area. We're not the general public, we are the community members. We have some entitlement to know, but we're not entitled to know. I was part of a delegation that went to Parliament House in Brisbane last year to speak about the Warola Act, which is far from adequate. Miners don't have to pay for access to water. Farmers have to pay for access for water, and they have an amount that they're allowed to take. Miners don't have that same restriction. And they said they don't need to have that restriction because written into this Act is a make good agreement. So that means that if they stuff your water supply up, the company that did it has to give you a water supply, like they have to replace that water, so give your farm a water supply, but it doesn't have to be of the same quality as what they took. So if they ruined our potable supply, it doesn't have to be a potable water supply. How long are they going to do that for? Because how many times do companies go bankrupt and that's it? You know, then they don't have to do it. And if they are giving you a water supply, whose water are they taking? Do you know what I mean? So
As in, where is the water coming from?
Where's it coming from? So who else is suffering from this? Who else's water supply is being depleted to make up for this make good arrangement that they have? It's not good enough. And they kept saying, oh, they're very proud of themselves. I've spoken to people in the Department of Natural Resources and Mining who are very proud of this Act. And I worked on that Act, and I said, from a landholder's perspective, it is not good enough. So, I mean, if that's how I feel, other people have got to be feeling the same way. And there's nobody in Parliament that will take this up to the extent it needs to be taken up. You know, the driest continent on the planet. And the other thing is, we're the last generation that has a choice in this. We're the last generation that has a choice whether our water is clean or not. After that, there won't be any choice because you can't clean it. You know, and our farmland, it's our food security.
So, would it be reasonable to expect the miners to be held to the same water standard that the farmers are currently?
How do you mean, like?
As in, there's a limit on what they can take.
I think it would be absolutely reasonable. I mean, if one industry has got a costing and a restriction on their access to water, then another industry should have that same costing and restriction put on them. But there's not. And then they don't, you know, the companies disappear before they can clean up their mess as well. So, I mean, mine rehabilitation is not happening the way that we all expect it to be happening. We all think that it's going on because we all apply the reasonable person rule of thumb to it. You know, a reasonable person would expect if they stuffed it up to clean it up, but that's not happening.
Should there be something in law that says if the company itself goes under, the directors are held responsible for the
Oh.
cleaning up and whatever else?
I think the directors should be held responsible, and I think the government department that gave them the go-ahead should be held responsible. That's what I think. I think it's that serious, because it's not just going to be ruined for a little while. It's going to be ruined for ages, isn't it? You know, like you think about the damage that can be done. What they've said they want to do out here is put a 6 square kilometre open cut metallurgical coal mine in. So it's not a big mine, it's only small, but our water supply is really shallow, so that's a sump. So all the water from around here will drain into that. And that's not repairable. Do you know what I mean? You can't stop that sort of damage. Yeah.
Have you tried getting local media on side with this? What was their response?
The same, I mean, media just, they haven't been easy to engage. I'll just leave it at that. They haven't been easy to engage. You know, it doesn't make news. People think that mining is going to boost the economy and bring jobs to an area, but it doesn't. Mining is responsible for about 1% of the employment. It used to be 2%, but now that we're outside the mining and construction boom that was occurring, it's about 1% now. So it's not as job rich as they make it out to be. And the jobs that it brings to a local area is FIFO, or is it FIFO? Sorry, FIFO, fly in, fly out work. So the workers, it was said to me, explained like this: the workers come with the equipment. So they fly in, they fly out. It's very easy to destroy an area if you don't come from it. If your kids aren't living here, it's very easy to fly in, do your work and leave. And that's what's happening in places like Chinchilla. And I'll use that as the biggest example because that's what's been done there is horrendous. And you would not do that if it was your own place. We've even surveyed community members here that work in the mining industry, FIFO workers, and they don't want it to come here. So you would think that they would just step into employment if a mine or gas was to come here. But they don't want it here because this is where they live. There's people in this community that have come from other mining communities to get away from mining. And now they're here. So they said they were horrified to think that people were looking for coal here. I mean, we don't know if it'll come or not. We don't know. But they shouldn't be allowed to look. That's the point. It should never have even been considered to come to this area. And they've thought so much about it that we know that they would like to put this 6 square kilometre open cut coal mine down the road. It's been given far too much thought.
If you get elected to Parliament and say the Greens have the balance of power in the House of Reps, would you put a condition on whoever forms government that money gets taken out of mining and put into
Health and
education?
Yep, that's right. It should not be going to mining. They are multinational companies. They have multi-million dollars. They have shareholders. They have plenty of money. They want to make a profit. So be it. Everyone wants to make a profit, but they should not be subsidised by the government at the expense of health and education.
In this area, what's how many schools would be in this area? Oh
gosh, I don't know. There's out here. Out in this area, just here.
Yep.
There's one down the road. Where are we? Hang on. Yeah, one down the road here.
Yep.
Kiora School, and there's Wolvi School just out here. Right. And then on this side of town, there's 3 that I'm aware of, and in town, 5 or 6, I suppose.
Right.
Don't quote me on that because I don't know. I really don't know. There's a lot of schools, and there's a lot of schools outside town.
No, I'm thinking in Gympie, I know, I'd imagine there's at least 2 high schools.
2 high schools.
The State High School and James Nash.
Yeah, I think there's another one.
The 2
as
I'm
well.
thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of schools in here. There are a lot of schools. Then there's Tin Can Bay just down the road,
Aye,
and Rainbow Beach also has a school.
aye.
So
And I'm imagining
they're not far.
And imagine those are state schools, primary schools.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think of there being a uni campus in Gympie, and I think there's one going up around Maryborough, Harvey Bay
I think
area?
it's an excellent idea. I think we need more education in the area. TAFE as well. I think uni and TAFE is so important for rural areas. So important. The other thing that needs to be looked at, I think, is there's been a big shift away from career work and more go into casual and part-time work, and I think that needs to come back to people actually getting full-time employment and being able to make a career, because a lot of my friends in nursing aren't able to do that. A lot of it's gone on to casual work and contract work, and I think that's
So you're wanting to see people have a bit more certainty in...
absolutely, because
in
you
their
can't
jobs.
have, I mean, what bank's going to give a casual part-time worker a loan? You can't prove that you're going to have an income in 5 years.
When I was working casual, I couldn't even prove I'd have an income the following week.
That's right. That's exactly right. You know, like yeah. You know, you need that certainty so you can get a loan. I think that's really important. Really important.
So with education, what sort of things do you think need to be taught to students?
Taught?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I mean, it depends on where they're going, doesn't it? You know, like it depends on what area they're going into. Look, my history is with health, and I think health used to be a great career for people to get into, but now I wouldn't encourage people to go into it because of the uncertainty. You know, like nursing isn't the career it used to be. It was a really great career for women in particular. My partner, he's been in mental health for 25 years. You know, he's been really lucky, but I mean, people coming in now, it's all casual and contract.
Do you think we would need more teachers and those sorts of people?
Teachers, hospitality, because, you know, that would be great if you need hospitality for tourism and that type of thing. So I think that's really important. Yeah, definitely teachers, definitely nursing. I mean, you need it. I wish that they had the long-term employment prospects that I had when I was coming through, but it's not there anymore. But we need teachers, we need nurses, we need people in hospitality. Human services, you know. So, yeah. Social workers, that type of thing.
Is there a shortage of social workers and those sorts of people in this area, or?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of social workers. There's never enough in an area like this, though. There's never enough.
There's more problems than there are.
I think there
sorting
are.
out.
Well, I mean, it's a regional area. There's a lot of unemployment. There's a lot of homelessness. There's a lot of social issues that go with that, drugs and alcohol and that sort of thing. I mean, I think it's a sign of the times that we're in.
So if you get elected, what would your first
issues-
100 days be?
The issues that I really think need addressing are post-traumatic stress disorder in our returned servicemen and women. There's an epidemic of suicide as I see it at the moment.
Yep.
The figures that I've heard are 19 since the 1st of January have committed suicide. But you don't hear about it. Again, you don't hear about it.
You might
There
hear
were three-
about the odd one.
No, 3 suicides over Anzac Day. 3 suicides, 3 service-related suicides in one weekend. If that was people dying of breast cancer or testicular cancer, up in arms. So PTSD in our returned servicemen and women, and more services made available for them. I think the funding is good. Everyone that I've spoken to says that the funding is okay, but it's just making the services more user-friendly for the people, because there's a delay sometimes of up to months. It can be. I've heard 6 months. I can't prove that or disprove it, but what happens is men have a crisis, particularly men, because they're the ones that have mostly suicided. They have a crisis, they contact DVA, and in the time between their crisis occurring and DVA becoming active, they haven't made it and they've committed suicide. That's what's happening a lot. The other thing is anxiety and depression in our farmers, because they're experiencing massive droughts in the west. Even though there's been rain, there's a lag period between rain actually having an effect on their income, and occurring and having an effect on their income. So depression, anxiety in our farmers and their families, more family support, and watching them for suicide, because that's another thing that's going to start, I think it's going to start coming on very soon, is that they're going to be taking their own lives. Been a few farmers do it anyway. Mental health in those areas. The other thing that farmers have got to deal with is the trade agreements that have been made, things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership and all that sort of thing, all those trade deals that are being made, and also price restrictions. They're not getting the income. I mean, even on milk, I think it costs more to produce milk than they're selling it for at Woolworths. So,
So they're basically selling it at a loss.
basically. There was dairies around this area. There was about 15 dairies, I've heard, in this area. To my knowledge, now there is only one. Now that's, we had China out here, they were buying up baby formula and selling it overseas. We ended up having, there were restrictions put on the amount of baby formula that people could buy because the Chinese were buying it and sending it back to China. Yet dairies are closing. That is an industry that's going begging. That's where the subsidies, if the government wanted to subsidise an industry, they could subsidise the dairy industry. There'd be massive returns on that.
That's all I've got.
No worries, no worries. I'll give you my pamphlet, there's a bit in that, so.
Oh, 36 minutes.
That's quite a bit.